But I thought you said you were finally rich. You got a raise?
Shut up! Just stop talking right now. I am seriously broke. I feel broke, bro.
It's 6:45 a.m. You're in your kitchen. The coffee machine hums. Your kids still dreaming in their beds. But you're wide awake, phone in hand, staring at your bank account like it's a puzzle you can't solve. You're doing the math again. And here's the crazy part, you're making more money now than you ever thought possible. Way more than you did when you were 28. Way more than your father earned at your age, even when you adjust for inflation. But every single month you're standing here asking yourself the same question, where does it all go? Why doesn't it feel like you're winning? You've got the house, check. You've got the car, check. You've got the impressive job title, check. But there's this voice, quiet but persistent, whispering in the back of your mind. Something isn't right, the numbers don't make sense. And here's what makes this even more uncomfortable. You're not messing up? Not in the obvious ways anyway. You're not throwing money at the casino. You're not buying ridiculous things you don't need. You're being responsible. You're doing exactly what men your age are supposed to do. And that's exactly why you're trapped. Because the traps that catch men between 35 and 45, they don't look like traps at all. They look like wins. They look like success. They look like you finally made it. And nobody warns you about them. Not because it's a secret, but because talking about it makes people deeply uncomfortable. So today, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off. We're going to talk about what these traps really are, why they're so deadly during this exact decade of your life, and most importantly, how you can escape them without destroying everything you've built or pretending you need to live like you're broke. This is the conversation I desperately needed 10 years ago. And if you're somewhere between 35 and 45 right now, making more money than ever but feeling more trapped than ever, this might be the most important thing you watch all year. My name is John, and I spend a ridiculous amount of time thinking about money, not just the spreadsheets and calculators, but the psychology behind it. The invisible rules we follow without questioning. The decisions that seem smart in the moment but quietly steal your future over time.
Here's what I need from you right now. And I'm serious about this. If this conversation hits home, if you feel like someone finally understands what you're going through, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Drop a like on this video. And here's the big one. Leave a comment and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Are you in Texas? Lagos? Toronto? Sydney? London? I want to know because this problem, it's everywhere.
And when you comment, it tells me I'm not alone in thinking this matters. It helps other guys find this conversation. So drop your location in the comments right now. I'll wait. All right, let's get into this. Here's what most people think financial disaster looks like when you're in your late 30s or early 40s. They imagine some reckless guy. Maybe he's leasing a sports car he has no business driving. Maybe he's got credit cards maxed out from vacations he couldn't afford. Maybe he's just terrible with money, period. Sure, that guy exists, but he's not most guys. Most men in this age bracket aren't making obviously stupid choices. They're doing what society says is the smart move. They're buying a house in a neighborhood with good schools. They're financing a reliable vehicle because they've got a family that depends on them. They're climbing the ladder at work, more responsibility, more stress, but also more money. They're paying for daycare, for their kids' sports teams, for all the things that good fathers are supposed to pay for. None of that sounds like a trap, does it? That sounds like growing up. And this is where it gets dangerous. Because when your mistakes are disguised as maturity, you don't question them. You lean into them harder. You tell yourself that the discomfort you're feeling is just the cost of being an adult, that this is what responsibility feels like. But let me tell you something crucial. There's a massive difference between responsibility and being trapped. There's a difference between building a life and building a prison. And during this decade, a lot of men accidentally construct cages around themselves without realizing it until the door slams shut. Let me break down the core traps for you. Trap number 1, upgrading your life before you've built real stability. And no, I'm not talking about buying a mansion or a yacht. I'm talking about completely normal things but doing them too soon. You get a raise, maybe you finally hit 6 figures for the first time and it feels amazing. So naturally you upgrade, new car, bigger house, nicer apartment. You start going out to eat more often, you say yes to things you used to decline. This is what people call lifestyle creep. You've probably heard that term before. But here's the part that doesn't get emphasized enough. Lifestyle creep isn't just about spending more money. It's about locking in higher fixed costs that chase you down for years. When you buy a more expensive house, you don't just pay more one time, you pay more every single month. Property taxes climb, insurance climbs, utilities climb, maintenance costs climb. And now your break-even point, the amount you need just to keep your life from falling apart, has permanently increased. Let me hit you with some real numbers. Right now, according to recent surveys, the average mortgage payment in America is over $2,000 every month. For many families, housing alone swallows 30 to 40% of their take-home pay. Add a car payment on top of that, which averages over $700 monthly for new vehicles, and suddenly you're looking at a massive chunk of every paycheck vanishing before you've saved a single dollar. And this is where the trap shut. Because once you're locked into these payments, your income has to stay where it is. You can't take risks anymore. You can't accept a pay cut for a better opportunity. You can't slow down even if your body and mind are screaming at you to. You've purchased a lifestyle to sprint on the treadmill at maximum speed, forever. Trap number 2, financing comfort instead of buying freedom. What does that mean? Simple. Most financial decisions people make in their late 30s are designed to make life easier right now. And look, I get it, you're exhausted, you've got responsibilities piling up, you've earned the right to not struggle. But how you pay for that comfort matters more than you realize. When you finance a $40,000 car over 6 years because the monthly payment looks manageable, you're not buying transportation, you're buying a 6-year obligation. You're selling your future flexibility for comfort in the present. And flexibility, it's the most underrated asset you can possibly own. When you have flexibility, you can walk away from a terrible job. You can wait for the right opportunity instead of grabbing the first one. You can handle an emergency without drowning in debt. When you don't have flexibility, every unexpected expense feels like the end of the world. Every slow month at work feels like a threat hanging over your head. You're one layoff, one health crisis, one bad quarter away from disaster. And here's the brutal truth, that comfort you bought, it doesn't even feel comfortable anymore. You've gotten used to it. The nice car just feels like your car now, but the payments, they never get used to anything. They just keep showing up, month after month after month. Trap number 3, saying yes to obligations that permanently raise your break-even point. This trap is sneaky because it often feels generous. It feels like the right thing to do. You toss in a loan for a family member who needs help. You absorb your partner's debt because you're a team now. You commit to private school tuition because you want your kids to have every advantage. You buy a house with extra space because your aging parents might need to move in someday. All of these decisions might be absolutely right for your situation. I'm not here to judge your values or tell you what matters. But here's what I need you to understand. Every single obligation you add to your life raises the amount you need just to survive. And once that number goes up, it almost never comes back down. You can cancel subscriptions. You can skip the expensive coffee. You can do all the tiny things personal finance gurus tell you to do, but you can't easily undo a mortgage. You can't easily undo a tuition commitment. You can't easily undo a loan you guaranteed. These are structural decisions, and men in this age range make tons of them, often without fully calculating what they'll mean 10 or 20 years down the road. Trap number 4, confusing income growth with financial progress. This is the one that destroys high earners. You look at your salary now compared to 10 years ago and think, I'm crushing it, I've made it. But income isn't wealth. Income is what flows in, wealth is what stays. And if your expenses have grown at the exact same rate as your income or faster, then you haven't actually made progress at all. You're just running a bigger, more expensive version of the exact same machine. There's a reason studies consistently show that people earning $200,000 a year often report feeling just as financially stressed as people making $75,000. It's not because money doesn't help. It's because lifestyle has a way of expanding to consume every dollar available. And once it does, you're back at square one. You just have nicer stuff while you're there. Now let me explain why these traps are especially dangerous between ages 35 and 45. There are several things happening during this specific decade that make it uniquely risky. First, your income is probably higher than it's ever been. That sounds fantastic, and it is, but it also hides problems. When money is flowing in, you don't notice the leaks. You don't track every dollar because there seem to be enough dollars to cover the waste. But that waste is real. And over 10 or 20 years, it compounds into hundreds of thousands of dollars you'll never see again. Second, time pressure during this decade is crushing. You've got career demands, you've got kids who need your attention, you've got aging parents, you've got health issues starting to appear, you're busy. And when you're that busy, you don't reflect, you don't step back and ask yourself, is this actually working? You just keep moving, you just keep saying yes. Third, and this is the psychological trap, responsibility during this phase starts to feel identical to maturity. You tell yourself that taking on more obligations is just what adults do. That stability means being locked in, that questioning your choices is immature or ungrateful. But there's a critical difference between being responsible and being trapped. Responsible means you can handle your obligations. Trapped means you can't see a way out of them, even if you desperately wanted to. Let's talk about what these traps actually cost you long-term. Cost number 1, delayed compounding. Every dollar you spend on lifestyle today is a dollar that's not working for you in the market. And when you're 37, time is still your friend, but only if you actually use it. If you wait until you're 45 or 50 to start seriously investing, you've lost the most powerful decade of compounding that was available to you. Let me give you a concrete example. If you invest $500 every month starting at age 35 and you earn roughly 7% returns, which is actually below historical stock market averages, you'll have nearly $500,000 by the time you're 65. If you wait until 45 to start investing that same $500 monthly, you'll have less than half that amount. Same monthly contribution, same return rate, but half the time equals way less than half the result. That's what delayed compounding costs you, and it's completely invisible. You don't get a bill for it, you don't feel it, but it's real, and it's permanent. Cost number 2, chronic soul-crushing stress. When your break-even point is sky-high, everything feels tight. Even when money is coming in, you don't feel secure. You're constantly one unexpected expense away from trouble. And that stress affects everything: your sleep quality, your physical health, your relationships, your ability to think clearly at work. Research shows that financial stress is one of the leading causes of anxiety and health problems in middle-aged adults. And here's the cruel irony: this stress doesn't come from not having enough. It often comes from having plenty of income but zero margin, no flexibility, no room to breathe. Cost number 3, feeling successful but completely stuck. This is the feeling I think a lot of men in this age range know deep in their bones but never talk about. You've got the house, you've got the job. On paper you look great, but you can't make a move, you can't take a risk. You can't say no to things you hate because you need every single dollar just to keep the machine running. And that's a brutal place to be because you can't even complain about it. You know other people have it worse. But the gap between what your life looks like and what your life feels like gets wider every single year. So how do you step out of this without burning your entire life to the ground? Let me be realistic with you. I'm not going to tell you to sell your house, buy a van, and live on rice and beans. That's not practical for most people. And honestly, it's not even desirable. The goal isn't to reject success. The goal is to reclaim options. Step 1, audit your obligations. Not just your spending asterisk. Most financial advice focuses on cutting expenses. That's fine, but the real leverage is in the structural stuff: your mortgage, your car payment, your recurring commitments. Make a list of everything you're obligated to pay every single month, no matter what happens. Add it all up. That number, that's your real baseline, that's what you need to survive. And then ask yourself honestly, is this number where I want it to be? If it's too high, you need to start thinking about how to bring it down. That might mean downsizing. It might mean driving a cheaper car. It might mean having uncomfortable conversations about commitments you've already made. But you can't manage what you don't measure, and most people have never actually calculated their true monthly obligation number. Step 2, separate your identity from your lifestyle. This is the psychological work. A lot of men tie their entire self-worth to external things: the car they drive, the neighborhood they live in, the vacations they post about. And when that happens, lifestyle decisions become identity decisions. Cutting back feels like admitting failure. Downgrading feels like moving backward. But here's the truth that will set you free. Your identity isn't your stuff. Your identity is who you are when all the stuff is gone. The man who can drive a modest car and not feel small, he's stronger than the man who needs a luxury car to feel important. The man who can live below his means and feel good about it has something no amount of money can buy. And once you break that connection, once your self-worth is no longer tied to your spending, you're free. You can make decisions based on what's actually best for your future, not based on what you think people expect you to have. Step 3. Reclaim control one decision at a time. You don't have to flip your entire life upside down overnight, but every decision you make going forward can either add options or remove them. Buying a bigger house removes options, paying off debt adds options, financing a new car removes options, keeping your paid-off car running adds options. Every time you face a financial choice, ask yourself, does this give me more freedom or less? Over time, those choices compound, not just financially but psychologically. You start to feel lighter, you start to see instead of just obligations. Now, I want to address something head-on because I can already hear some of you pushing back. John, I'm supposed to provide for my family. I'm supposed to give my kids a good life. And I completely agree with you, but providing for your family doesn't mean locking yourself into the highest possible lifestyle you can technically afford on paper. It means building a foundation that gives your family security and options. You know what kids actually remember? They remember whether their parents were stressed all the time or actually present. They remember whether there was constant tension in the house or peace. They remember whether their dad seemed free or trapped. You're not giving your kids a better life by having a nicer house if it means you're anxious constantly. You're not being a better father by driving a newer car if it means you can't take time off when they need you. The best thing you can give your family is a stable, flexible foundation. And that often means saying no to upgrades so you can say yes to what genuinely matters. I also want to talk about the positive side of this because stepping out of these traps doesn't just reduce stress, it opens doors. When your break-even point is low, everything changes. You can negotiate harder at work because you don't need this specific job to survive. You can take a calculated risk on a new opportunity because you've got runway. You can say no to bad deals, toxic clients, and terrible situations because you're not desperate. That kind of freedom compounds too. Because when you're not constantly stressed about money, you think more clearly, you make better decisions, you show up more confidently, and that tends to create more opportunities, which creates more income, which gives you even more flexibility. It's a virtuous cycle, but you have to get it started, you have to make the first move. Let me give you a quick reality check with actual numbers. If you're 40 years old and you start saving just $500 every month, you can have roughly $250,000 by the time you're 60, assuming historically average returns. If you're spending that money instead on car payments, lifestyle upgrades, and obligations you never properly evaluated, that money is gone forever. Over 20 years, that's not just $120,000 in contributions you made. It's $130,000 in lost growth. $250,000 is the difference between having real options in your 60s and having none. And it doesn't require massive income. It requires making different choices with the income you already have. I also want to mention one of the biggest mistakes I see men make in this exact age range. They hit a savings milestone, maybe $50,000 in the bank, maybe $100,000 in retirement accounts, and they treat it like permission to upgrade. They think, okay, I've made it. Now I can relax. Now I can get that nicer car. Now I can stop worrying so much. But that's exactly backward. Those milestones aren't rewards. You don't celebrate the foundation of a house by setting it on fire. You build on it. You use it as a base for something bigger. Every time you treat a milestone as permission to spend more, you reset your progress, you go back to zero, and you'll never get ahead doing that. The people who build real wealth understand that every milestone is just the beginning of the next phase. You don't stop building, you build because you finally have something to build with. Let me also touch on why this matters beyond just the money. Because at the end of the day, money is just a tool. It's a tool that buys you time, options, and peace of mind. When your finances are out of control, even if your income is high, you're not free. You're owned by your obligations. But when you get this right, when your lifestyle is intentionally below your income, when your break-even point is manageable, when you've got real flexibility, you show up differently, you make decisions from a place of strength instead of fear. You're a better partner, a better parent, a better friend, a better leader. Not because you're rich, but because you're not desperate, because you've proven to yourself that you can control your financial life. And that kind of confidence bleeds into everything else you do. Here's what I want you to walk away with from this video. The traps that catch men between 35 and 45 aren't failures of discipline, they're failures of visibility. You can't avoid a trap you don't see. And society has done an incredible job of making these traps look like success. Bigger house, nicer car, more obligations, that's what winning looks like, right? But once you see it differently, once you understand that real wealth is flexibility, not lifestyle, the trap loses its power over you. You start making different choices, not because you're depriving yourself, but because you genuinely want something better. Security, options, peace, the ability to say no, the ability to say yes to what actually matters. If you're in this age range and you're feeling stuck right now, I want you to hear this clearly. It's not too late. You haven't missed your window. You've got 20 or 30 years of earning and building ahead of you. Every year you stay in the trap, your break-even point becomes more entrenched. Your lifestyle feels more permanent. The cage starts to feel like just the way things are. Start now, not tomorrow, not next quarter, not when things settle down at work. Now, audit your obligations this week. Pick one thing you can change, one commitment you can reduce, one lifestyle upgrade you can reverse. You don't have to flip your whole life upside down, you just have to start moving in the right direction. And once you do, you'll be shocked at how fast things shift, because this stuff compounds, not just the money, the mindset, the confidence, the freedom. All right, I've kept you here for a while, and I genuinely appreciate you sticking with me through this. If this video helped you see something differently, if it made you question something you hadn't questioned before, drop a comment and let me know. Here's my question for you. What's one financial obligation you wish you hadn't taken on? Not to shame you, not to make you feel bad, but because I think this conversation needs to happen more. Men in this age range don't talk about this stuff. We act like we've got everything handled. We pretend the stress isn't eating us alive, but it is. And the more we can be honest about where we got tripped up, the more we can help each other find the way out. So share your story if you're comfortable. And if you're not comfortable sharing your own situation, tell me this. What's one decision you're going to make differently going forward? Drop it in the comments right now. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on this video. It genuinely helps more people find this content. And honestly, I think this is the conversation a lot of guys desperately need to have but don't know how to start. Thanks for watching, and remember, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. Let's see how far this message travels.